I mean, some of them are just in Kyiv. There's now here also a House of Free Russia in, a sort of a cultural center of Russian emigres in Kyiv. There are prominent journalists like Yevgeny Kiselyov and Savik Shuster who are active, and there are lots of Russians who come here and who are interested. I'm not sure they always understand all the technicalities of the transition, and because it's also a complicated process. It's also this association agreement, for instance, is very complicated by itself. The decentralization is a big topic by itself. Decommunization. Each of these projects is huge. There's a lot of interest. I think a lot of sympathy, and unfortunately, I have to say, some Ukrainians, they are not as welcoming to this Russian interest for Ukraine as I would wish. Sometimes there is the perhaps even sometimes justified suspicion that among these Russians who are coming to Ukraine may be secret agents. That's I guess what the FSB or GRU or all these organs are probably doing. That they are infiltrating these opposition. Russian opposition scenes, but still, I mean, the majority clearly are, and you can see that in their biographies, they are in conflict with Putin, and they should be welcomed in Ukraine, and they should be seen as allies. I think they are, at the end of the day, they might be more important allies in Ukraine's fight for independence than the West, because for them it's an absolutely crucial topic. I mean, for them. It's an existential issue. The Putin fighting the Putin regime is an existential issue for the Ukrainians, and fighting the Putin regime is also an existential issue for the Russian opposition. And in the West, unfortunately, many don't see it that way. For them, Ukraine is a faraway country. It's some inner-Slavic conflict they have, and there's a lot of illusion here in Kyiv about the Western support for Ukraine. The people think that Ukraine is going to become soon a NATO member, an EU member. It's not going to happen soon. I mean, lots of things would have to change that people in the West are going to take this risk just because for them it's not important. Whereas for the Russian opposition, this whole thing is very important. The Russian-Ukrainian conflict, what will happen to the Putin regime? These are the same questions that many Ukrainians ask themselves. Unfortunately, even among the sort of democratic opposition to Putin, there are, a considerable part of this opposition. For them, still the old saying of, I think, Vinichenko goes that Russian liberalism ends where Ukrainian independence begins. So this is still a pathology, I would say, also of a part of Russian liberalism. But this is not all Russian liberalism, and there's now, I would say, the larger part of the Russian opposition, which is not a big political force, unfortunately, is now sort of fully respective of Ukrainian independence, and it has the return of Crimea in its program. People like Kasparov, they fully accept this, the Ukrainian territorial integrity, and there are many now. I think I would say more and more, even Russian nationalists who become sort of who understand that Ukrainian independence and territorial integrity and political sovereignty has to be respected. There are also some dubious allies that Ukraine has here. Some Russian neo-Nazis. Some of them are linked to the Azov regiment that are then on Ukraine's side, but most of the Russians who have now become sort of Ukrainian patriots in a way, they are liberals, of course, and they see. I see it also partly this way. They see Ukraine in a way as a model for Russia, and they look carefully on Ukraine not just because of sympathy, but they look also for guidance how a future Russia should look. And I would even I think I'm going to write an article on this issue, how basically the current model of Ukraine's transformation, the association agreement, the visa liberalization regime, these are all models that at another point in history can then be applied to Russia, and not just the format of these integration and democratization schemes, but also their implementation in Ukraine. For instance, decentralization, liberalization, decommunization. These are things that are happening in Ukraine, and much of it, not all of it is ideal, of course, can maybe someday be also applied in Russia.